Hi, everyone. Welcome to the first official Balance Blueprint podcast. We have a guest today, so we're going to hop right in. So, welcome to today's podcast with Katie B, a Division I soccer player and graduate student with an inspiring story of resilience. I can't wait for everyone to hear her story. After facing a major health challenge that disrupted her life and athletic career, Katie returned to the soccer field and reached out to the Balance Blueprint to share her experience, which, Katie, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. The Balance Blueprint, in case anybody doesn't know, we offer a one-on-one coaching for people living with dizziness and balance issues. And Katie, your story has resonated with our mission 10 times over. So Katie, let's start with you introducing yourself. So tell us a little about yourself. You're Division I soccer player. Like, let's hear all about Katie.
Yeah, so my name is Katie Bahn. I was born in California, raised in Hendersonville, Tennessee, and that's where I am right now. I played a lot of sports growing up because I have three older brothers, and they all played hockey growing up. So I was always put in like all our childhood games. I played a lot of sports growing up, but I stuck with soccer at a pretty young age. I am a goalkeeper and started being a goalkeeper at a pretty young age too. Played club soccer, and then, as I got older, got recruited, and I ended up playing 4 seasons, 3.5 years at Austin Peay State University, up in Clarksville, Tennessee. Um, and then just recently, this past December, so about 6 months ago, I transferred and am playing my 5th year, my graduate year at Sam Houston State University down in Huntsville, Texas.
Incredible. I'm just gonna branch off that a little bit. So obviously you and I talked before we hopped on this. So being a college athlete myself, I mean, how was that transition from one school to another?
It was tough, I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's not common for, and at least in my experience, I feel like it's not that common for a student athlete to be at an institution all 4 years. Transfer portal is a real thing and people hop in and out and take advantage of it. But for me and like my journey, I just felt at home at Austin Peay all 4 years. And then once, I graduated with my undergrad, I felt like it was time to transfer and everything. The transition was hard, but it also like was as easy as it could have been, if that makes sense, because of
Absolutely.
where I transferred to and the people that I met and everything. As like just a student, it was seamless. As like an athlete, it was seamless, and even just as like a person, the people that I met, it was like could not have been better.
Incredible. I mean, again, it's the people you meet. I mean, colleges, I would say very, and I don't know if you felt this way, I did, very different than your high school experience,
Oh yeah,
for sure. And, I think it's all about the people you meet and they make it home. Um,
absolutely.
yeah. Um, Tell everybody what you are studying, what you did study, and what you are studying.
Yes, so I got my undergrad in criminal justice, my bachelor's degree in criminal justice with a minor in psychology, and I'm currently at Sam Houston getting a master's of science in criminal justice as well.
Amazing. How much school do you have left?
I will graduate May of 26. So I started my master's in this past January, and I'll kind of take a fast track program throughout the summer, and we'll graduate in a year and a half.
Incredible. You're almost done. Almost there.
Almost. Almost halfway.
Do you have any idea what you want to do after school? Loaded
Great
question.
question. Yeah, you're good. It's a great question. I think the idea right now is I really do love Texas. It's also my first time kind of moving out of state as an adult. And I think the plans right now is to stay in Texas. I'm kind of currently going through application
Yeah,
processes of higher like criminal justice jobs.
yeah,
Trying to make it to the highest I can. So like that means like government and federal. So we kind of got to start early for those. So looking at staying in Texas.
absolutely. And for everybody that's watching, her and I did not talk about that question after, so I did just throw it at her. All right, let's hop in. So, your story as an athlete facing what I would call, and obviously you and I talked a little bit about why I started the Balance Blueprint, um, facing a significant health setback, and you for sure did. and again, that setback was powerful in your life. So I want to dive into what you went through, especially since your challenges related to dizziness, and obviously you and I talked some balance issues. So can you walk us through your early days of kind of what happened and what symptoms you were feeling?
Yeah. First, kind of sign of symptoms, it was over about a year and a half ago now at this point. I would say late November of 2023. And the very first symptom I would say that I started, well, before any dizziness happened or balance issues happened, I had some type of viral infection. I don't know exactly what it was, whether it's COVID, sickness, strep, I don't know, but I had a really bad sore throat, like the worst I couldn't even describe it. It was like swallowing glass. Um, and that lasted for probably a good 4 or 5 days. It was over Thanksgiving Day, I remember, because I remember I couldn't eat
Yeah,
very much. Um,
very distinct time frame.
yes. Um, and so after that sickness, what the illness, whatever it was, I remember I woke up the next morning after Thanksgiving and my first symptom was unbalanced. Like I got up out of bed and I completely really just like fell over a little bit and walking to the bathroom. I ran into the door frame of a wall. I hit my shoulder on it and I was like, that was weird, you know?
Yeah,
And so yeah, those were the first early signs was just a lot of like balance issues. It's very, very faint, very small at first, and it was small enough for me just to be like, oh, what's wrong with me? Like that's weird.
Katie, you're an
Uh,
athlete. We just keep rolling.
yeah, exactly. I was like, oh, that's weird. Must be a little tired, even
Yeah.
though it's not that early. It must be kind of tired. Whatever. I'll just keep rolling with it. And I had that mindset for a few days. And it was progressive. It got worse. And I wasn't necessarily trying to hide it, but I hid it for as long as I could until I literally couldn't hide it anymore, and it was like affecting everything, like my vision and my ability to even stand up and walk literally one foot in front of the other. So that yeah, those are my early signs.
Okay. Okay. Um, so again, we talked about like obviously, and you're saying like, hey, I knew something was wrong. Um, and you kind of already answered this, but what drove you to finally be like, hey, something's up and I need to get some answers?
Yeah. There was one specific day in the early stages, and I say the early stages, that was probably a span of about a week.
Okay.
It didn't take long to progress,
Yeah.
maybe a week and a half. And one of those specific days was I was at Austin P up in Clarksville, Tennessee, and I went to work out on my own like normal, and again, I was still struggling with some of this balance issues, kind of and coordination too. I've noticed that my coordination was just off. Like, for example, like typing on my phone, typos every single time. I couldn't hit the keys correctly, and it was very weird. So anyway, I go work out, and I immediately felt I was just already getting fatigued too. So I was like, I just can't even finish this workout.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way I can, because I remember I was doing RDLs, so an exercise where your chest is you kind of off balance a little bit. Your chest is over you, your butt's kind of back a little bit, and so I was in that little bit off balance position, and I like was falling forward, and I was like, I can't.
Yeah.
Something's wrong. Can't do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
So, um, that was in the morning, and so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna call it quits here. Normally, something I don't do. As an athlete, you just kind of push through, but I was like, you know what? Not today. So, I had plans that day to go pick up my best friend, my roommate too, at the time, from the airport because she was coming back from Thanksgiving break. And so I just was like, you know what? I'll just head to the airport early, whatever. And I literally pull out of the parking lot, and thank God I did not make it far, but I had almost my first ever, I call them a dizzy spell. Like it was like that was kind of like the first bad one while I was driving and completely just misjudged a curve on the road and just pretty much ran right into a ditch. Thankfully, there was no other cars involved, but I like got super dizzy and then just took a turn too hard and went into a ditch or went into a curb actually, now that I remember it. But anyway, so obviously not very good, and I was like, okay, something's wrong. So I call my mom, tell her, hey mom, just ran into the curb. I'm all good, but
Yeah, yeah.
by the way, the reason was I kind of been like my vision's kind of been messed up recently. My balance is kind of weird, and she was just like, okay, like, well, let's get your car towed first because I couldn't drive. It was messed up. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
so like let's get your car towed and we'll talk about this tonight. Want to make sure you're good. And I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. So I call a friend to come pick me up. And my poor roommate Lindsay had to find a ride back from the airport. But
I'm
so
sure
then
she
that
understood.
yeah, she did. She's great. And then that night, to make matters worse, I was already a little concerned, obviously, from the dizzy spell while driving.
Absolutely.
What really sealed the deal, was I was taking a shower and I like made one of those movements where I tilted my head back to wash shampoo out of my hair and I completely just fell down in the shower. And that was in the same day of me wrecking my car. And my Lindsay was home at the time. She heard it. She was like, "Are you okay? Like, what's going on?" And I was like, "No, something's wrong." And called my mom, called our athletic trainer at the time at Austin P2. I was like, "Something's wrong." And she was like, "Go to urgent care now. Like, we're going." And so Lindsay took me. And that specific day was when I was like, something's wrong.
Yeah, there's enough in that day to be like, hey, I need to go get answers for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that absolutely paints the perfect picture, I think, kind of trajectory. And thank you for telling everyone watching when you say it progressed slowly, but then saying, hey, it's a week, because that is how quick, in the grand scheme of things, obviously, when you're going through it, it does not seem like snap your fingers quick, but that is as quickly as things start to kind of go haywire. Okay, as a D1 soccer player, because you are playing at the highest level for a college athlete, how did these health challenges um, affect your ability to play? So, and you and I didn't talk about this before. So, obviously, RDLs, you are already off balance, right?
Yeah.
So, your body's ability to actually keep you balanced, as long as that's working on all cylinders, right? But that exercise, like you said, alone is already putting you kind of off kilter anyway. But you
Hmm.
and I never talked. Did you play soccer, like actual, during any of this?
Thankfully, no,
Okay.
I did not. So, soccer season's in the fall, and I had just finished my junior season, probably 2.5 weeks prior to this. So, like, I was very lucky to get that whole season in. And then that's when my symptoms were started about, yeah, probably 2.5 to 3 weeks after that. So at the time, I was only lifting on my own. We weren't doing any team activity stuff.
Okay, sorry, sidebar.
No, it's
Um,
okay.
so, question. How did you feel, again, this affected your ability to play? Obviously, yes, you kind of just answered that. So we can even just go into like lifting. And this is a biggie, your sense of identity as an athlete.
Yeah, so it's a good question. Obviously, I don't even know how it would have fully affected my ability to play because I didn't get to, which thank God, because
Yeah.
I think that would have been even more scary if these symptoms came on in front of people or like, in a game or something like that. But just as my identity as an athlete, man, I would say that whole spring, and I'm sure we'll get into it more, that whole spring I was spent basically in rehab and recovery and like in physical therapy and different things. And I've never had such a long-term injury, and I've never been on the sidelines for that long. And it definitely makes you look at things a lot different. Not even for soccer too though, but like I mean for life for me, because like it was like affecting, and I didn't even mention this when I was talking about my symptoms, but like later on, like once I finally was in the hospital, like my speech had gone almost completely out. Like I was slurring everything and I knew what I wanted to say, but like I couldn't like enunciate anything. And I mean just like those daily things where like the coordination, like I couldn't type on my phone, I couldn't hold a fork, I couldn't brush my hair, brush my teeth, stuff like that. It was hard for me too. So like it completely definitely shot my identity as an athlete because it was like, man, I'm more than an athlete right now. Like I can't even walk. I can't even get out of bed right now. It just made things much more real, and like I don't even know if that's a good answer, but like it just makes you really think about how like precious things are, life is, and like how important, how strong your brain is, and how important these different systems are, which I didn't even know what a vestibular system was before this.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And you and I talked about too, and I'm gonna backtrack us a minute just in a second. Um, you and I talked about too, a lot of people don't even know what the system is, and we don't really talk about it. And why the heck would we unless, hey, something like this happens? Um, and I do think too, I mean, to your point, right? Like you and I talked on like this athlete different level, and we do identify as that. I mean, I still do to this day, right? But when that, like you're talking about, hey, real life stuff of I can't brush my hair, even just speaking or holding a fork, it's like, okay, yes, I am more than an athlete because I have regular life to live as well too,
yeah,
and that alone can take just a huge, huge toll, huge toll.
absolutely.
We're gonna dive into that in a minute. Can
Yeah.
we backtrack a little bit? So let's bring us back to, yes, you fell in the shower.
hmm
From there, what happened?
So that night, my roommate, Lindsay, I'll just call her Lindsay.
Yeah.
Lindsay took me to urgent care, and of course, urgent care was like, go to the hospital. Like we can't do much here. So then we drove down. It wasn't too far of a drive from Nashville, so went down to a hospital in Nashville and did all the initial like get the scary stuff out of the way, like CT scan of my brain, different. That was like the first test they took and everything, because we weren't sure, like, is this a stroke? Is this
Absolutely.
is there a tumor that's affecting my motor skills and different things? At this point, right, like currently, my speech wasn't affected yet. That happened a few days later, but it was just the falling was it was in dizzy spells. So, they were like, my CT scans came back clean and everything, so they were like, okay, like we think this is vertigo. Like here's some meclizine. Is that what it's called?
You got it,
Meclizine?
Mechanism.
Yeah.
You are 100%. You got
Here's
it.
some meclizine. Like go home, take it easy. Like no loud noises, flashing lights, stuff like that. And take this for so and so days, and come back if it gets worse. All right, like sounds good. Like easy enough. Like vertigo matches the symptoms. Like okay, hopefully this stuff works. So I start taking the meclizine, and I wish I could tell you exactly how many days, but I would say probably just a couple days later, I'm like, it's not really getting better. Like, honestly, it's kind of getting worse. Like, dizzy spells happening all the time. At this point, also, it's near Thanksgiving. It's after Thanksgiving now. It's finals week. I'm trying to do school. It was so awful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so,
You're trying to be a student athlete.
yeah, I was trying to be a student. I'm like, for sure, not the athlete right now. I just gotta, take the rest, which I needed anyway. Um, yeah, I'm trying to do school and everything. I'm just like, it's just not getting better. Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, my balance is getting worse. Like, I'm starting to not even be able to stand upright without having to, like, kind of catch myself falling back. I wake up one morning and I go to talk to Lindsay, and my words are all slurred. That's really weird. Like, I don't hurt right now. Like, my body felt completely normal. I was in no pain besides the balance and like the word slurring and everything. So I was like, okay, I feel like this is about the time when they say if it gets worse, this is it getting worse
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, me being a student athlete still, my parents are probably still mad at me for this, but I had a presentation the next day I really needed to do. And
You didn't
it
tell
was
me this part when we were
no,
on.
and so I was like, that's my final exam. Like I'm about to finish this class. Like it's a group project too. Like hopefully I can
You
get
can't
away.
let the group down.
Yeah, I can't let the group down. Um, and so I wait a day, wait a day, and I have a um my so I have this the next day now. Um, and my dad calls me. Just we call every so often, He calls me and I'm like, hey, good morning, Dad, whatever. And he was like, what is wrong with you? You sound like something is wrong. And I was like, yeah, like I don't know, I feel like it's kind of messing with my speech. And he's like, yeah, no kidding. And so, of course, my parents were like, you're crazy. Like, why'd you not tell us this? I know better now. But I was like, I was like, I have a presentation like an hour. Like, at least let me finish this and then we'll go. And so I go and present a project that I had been working on in front of the class. They probably thought I was not well.
How did that go? If your dad knows that your speech through the phone,
He
I am
was
thoroughly impressed that you got up and spoke.
I didn't speak a lot because
Okay.
my girls in the group project, we had met the day before, that
Okay.
so the day that it like came on,
Yep.
and they were like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, like I feel fine, but like my speech is kind of messed up. Like I'll
Yeah.
just read the small part," and I got through it.
Perfect.
But the other two girls finished it. But anyway, after that presentation that morning, I immediately went to the hospital again. And that's when they did a whole bunch of more tests and different things to kind of try and rule out what was going on. One of them I remember specifically was a lumbar procedure, a lumbar puncture, something to test for meningitis. And so that came back clean. So that's when they honed in on vestibular neuritis.
Please don't minimize that lumbar puncture because I know there's more to that story.
You want me to like go into that too?
A little bit.
Okay. So I did have to do a lumbar procedure which tests for meningitis, which I was having like could have been symptoms of meningitis.
Absolutely.
And so I'm thankful I was able to clear that up and make sure I wasn't that, because that could have been very, very bad. But um basically, like for anybody watching, I guess it's like an epidural. It's a big needle that goes in my back and they drain spinal fluid. And it's not uncommon complication, but it did happen to me. A complication happened to me where basically I don't know the science behind it, but my spinal fluid was leaking from that. And um so that procedure happened on like a Wednesday, and I got the vestibular neuritis diagnosis that same Wednesday. And so I was like, all right, we're good, got the diagnosis, like let's go home. And my back was still really hurting me the next day, and then the next day, and then my head was pounding every time I stood up. My ears were popping. Like I was like, I just needed to be horizontal all the time, and it was that was really, really painful. I was very nauseous and vomiting every single meal that I tried to eat. And at that point, I was like, something obviously still wrong. Like I'm deteriorating now. And so then probably that Saturday, so 3 days later from that lumbar procedure, I went back and they realized my back was leaking spinal fluid and got that patched in. Then I was on the road to recovery.
She's ready to go, she says. I just wanted you to go into more detail on it because I know, like,
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
not, again, something you did go through throughout this whole
Yeah,
process.
thank you.
And I don't want to minimize that because it's part of your story.
Thank you.
Um, Tell me, and everybody watching, whoever is watching, um, who came in and gave you that diagnosis? Do you remember?
Yeah, I I I don't remember names or
Yep,
anything,
that's
but
okay.
I do remember the neurologist came in. Um, and we didn't get that diagnosis at first. I do remember it was a man, and I know for sure he's the best of the best, and knows what he's talking about. But he definitely, I do remember feeling pretty like minimized, and like I felt a little crazy, not gonna lie, because his first diagnosis was, or maybe just suggestion of what it was that it was anxiety, and it was um stress and different things. And he came in and he handed me a pamphlet that had breathing mechanisms on it and different things like that. And I was just like, do you hear my voice right now? Like I don't think stress causes this. Um but anyway, that was it at first. And honestly, I don't remember if he was the same one who came back and told me we think it's vestibular neuritis. But after that, I think they saw, like, I was pretty upset to hear that, because I was just like, I feel like something, I don't feel right, and something's off. Um, but then that was what we concluded with.
And you and I had talked about this before too. The whole, again, you saying it, and I've told you I've had my patients come to me and say it, the whole, Elia, I feel like I'm crazy because along this path, someone has said to me, hey, it's stress, hey, it's anxiety, right? And
Hmm.
I tell everyone, and you knew, right? You know, you live with yourself 24/7. You know when something's off. Yes, stress obviously complicates it, but who the heck isn't stressed when we're dizzy?
Yes,
Right? Like
absolutely.
I always tell everybody, right? It's the cart before the horse, horse before the cart. Well, what came first? Hey, I'm having dizzy spells. I crashed my car, right? I don't think stress causes me to crash my car. Like, so you and I had talked like in pretty good detail about the path and the trajectory of getting that diagnosis. And a lot of times that stop somewhere in there before getting that diagnosis is someone unfortunately coming along and trying to blame it on stress. Um, so, okay, we're gonna go back forward a little bit because I think this is a good place to kind of go because what I want to start to talk about now is more positive of, hey, you have your diagnosis. So let's talk a little bit about your road to recovery.
Of course.
So take me on that path. You got the diagnosis. Let's
Yes.
get you going.
So I got a diagnosis finally, got the whole lumbar procedure complication all fixed up, and I was
Patched.
finally feeling like I had an appetite. I was like, let's what's the next step? Like, let's go. So at this point it's Christmas break. So I go ahead and go home to Nashville area, Hendersonville, which thankfully wasn't too far of a drive. And I'm also not driving at this point, of course. I had my mom come and take me back home. And I was so incredibly lucky and blessed to have a local doctor. He's a chiropractor, but also like a physical therapist, like all of those things, who I've worked with before in different in like sport injuries since I was probably 16. Dr. Jason Holm, he's local here in Hendersonville, and he actually has worked in vestibular physical therapy before. Like he has seen vestibular neuritis before, and like so I got in contact with him, and he was like, "Oh yeah, like I know exactly what how to treat this. Like I've had patients before. Like let's get her and let's get started. Like I need to see her immediately." And so very lucky to have someone like him in my backyard. So as soon as I went home, I mean, I still probably was declining a little bit. Like I had my diagnosis, but I still wasn't doing great. And so I started physical therapy with him probably the next day after, maybe 2 days after I got my diagnosis. Um, and that looked like not like your normal physical therapy. Like it was pretty hard to go from finishing your junior season of D1 soccer to relearning to put one foot in front of the other, standing up and sitting back down again. A lot of, shaking my head and making me dizzy and then doing a task while dizzy, or like it was very just not something I was used to. So it was very frustrating for sure. And that it was that type of kind of relearning those movements and relearning coordination, trying to hit my finger on my nose.
Yeah.
Um all over again. But it was like that for probably a good 2 or 3 weeks before I started doing any type of athletic, not even athletic movement, but just more movement in general. That was the beginning of the physical therapy road to recovery.
Shout out to Dr. Jason, because you and I have talked
Mhm.
about not a lot of people and or therapists know how to treat it. So, and he sounds like the perfect person again to have in your back
Right,
pocket.
for sure.
Um, Yeah, talk to me. So again, coming from athlete, right? Like diving and saving goals
Mhm.
to I can't put one foot in front of the other. Like, yes, obviously, right? And we'll talk about this a little bit. Like, yes, it had its physical toll, and I'm sure you noticed, like, hey, I can't get in the gym as much as I want to right now. And, you know, being an athlete and again, PT, like you don't use it, you lose it, right? And how quick that happens. But Katie, I want to go into a little bit more of like the mental health side of it. Talk to me about kind of that trajectory for you a little bit.
Yeah. I kind of touched on it a little bit. I talked about how just frustrating PT was, and I don't think I mentioned this yet, but he was having me go every single weekday while I was home for Christmas break, and Christmas break in college is about a month and a half. So like I was so incredibly lucky to be able to have access to that therapy that often, which is so important in vestibular therapy too. But it was so frustrating. And there were a couple moments like the ones I mentioned, the one in the shower, crashing the car. There were a couple more moments where like I was like my balance wasn't great and I was falling over, stumbling, you would say, but there were a couple moments where I full out fell to the ground. Like there were some bigger moments where like there was one where I like scraped my whole right side of my body. Like it was not good and it was very painful. And specifically those moments happened in the month of December and some one in January too. And I know it shouldn't be, but I was so embarrassed and it like completely mentally like set me back to square one, day one, when I would fall completely because it was just so humiliating for me to go through that. And it's like so like I don't even know, like demoralizing a little bit. Like I was just like, what is wrong with me? Like I am a D1 soccer player and I am falling on concrete right now. And it was just that was really, really hard to like dig myself out of a hole of, especially like when I would that especially because it happened multiple times. But it was just took time, I would say, just to kind of accept things because I wasn't gonna wake up and just be a D1 soccer or just be like on the field right away again. Like it was a process and I had to really trust the process and yeah, it was tough for a while, especially in the beginning months.
And I think too, for anybody that has never had a vestibular issue or like they're just starting to have their vestibular issue, I a lot of times tell my patients, and so let me ask you this question. Have you ever had, like, I'm sure being as high competitive as you are and where in the level you got to, have you ever had like an orthopedic injury that you had to like sit out from?
Yes.
So I often tell my patients, right, everyone around you can see that, right? If you have a sling on or you're using crutches or
Yes.
you have a limp, right? Like for some reason, that's very easy for people to see, right? And comprehend. When it
Hmm.
comes to this system, you can't see it. And a lot of times it doesn't make sense to people. And
Hmm.
that people can't actually rationalize and like come around with it is I find actually even more frustrating sometimes for my patients is like you're trying to explain it, but it's like you get to a point where like I you can't see it, so it's very hard or you can't feel it. Um,
Yes, absolutely. That was not to cut you off or
no,
anything,
go
but
ahead.
that was definitely, now that you say that, for sure a tough thing to come to terms with, but also like not a lot of people, like you said, know the vestibular system or know how it operates or different things, and especially if you're not in the medical world, like or anything, or had gone to school at all, like it was hard, I think, for some, especially my head coach probably like coming back. I was very scared to come back because it's not a broken bone, it's not a sprained ankle, it's something inside, and I feel like I scared a lot of people with it because I mean, I didn't even know myself what was really going on, and I didn't know if I was gonna come back to soccer. I had no idea um when or if I could play again. I think it was a part of the mental struggle was just like em embarrassment of myself, but also like worry about what other people are thinking and like all that stuff and how they definitely don't understand
Yeah.
fully.
And even to your point too, right? It's like, and you just kind of, again, we're going off, but I told you we might do this, just based on
Sorry.
conversation back and forth. Um, when you bring up, and I don't know, this might have happened to you because you kind of started to talk about it a little bit, it seemed like. When you did come back, did people, and maybe they didn't, but did they kind of treat you like a delicate figure of like you're like, hey, no, I'm ready. And they're like, I'm like, because they didn't understand it. Like, did that happen?
Mhm. Yes and no, I would say. Like personal life, I would say, like, like I scared my friends, I think, and like, especially Sweet Lindsay, like literally lived through it with me from a third person point of view. I've said that before
Yeah.
on other speakings, but like I she like experienced every single symptom I had just by watching me, and I think I really scared her and just some of my best friends who were around me still every single day. And I will say my head coach at the time did a good job bringing me back into soccer. So let me backtrack a little bit. So, I was seeing Dr. Jason back at home all through Christmas break. When Christmas break ended, I had started to make some progress because I was going very often in to someone who knew what they were doing. And Dr. Jason did not want me to go back to school. He wanted to keep seeing me and, you know, do my work online. At that point, I was online for that semester, so I didn't have any in-person presentations or anything. But he didn't want me to go back. But for my own sanity and my mental sake, I was like, I need to be with my
I
friends. Like,
get that.
please let me go back. I'm not that far. Like, we could compromise. And he was like, okay, like, we'll compromise. Um, I still want you going 5 days a week. I want like full control, of course, of my treatment plan. And so my athletic trainer at the time, her name is Suji. Um, he and Suji got connected. And he sent like all the treatment plans over and everything, so she had it all. So I would go five, 4 times a week with Suji, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and still once a week every Wednesday. I would go back home, so only like hour drive, and go
Yep.
see him weekly though. So I did that the whole spring semester. Sorry, what was the question that I was going off of that?
No, we had talked about, I had asked, did going back into it, right? Did anybody kind of
Yes.
treat you, hey, I
Yes.
don't really understand it?
Yes. So like it was a learning process for everyone. Our athletic trainer, the whole athletic training staff, I was kind of like the talk of the town a little bit. No one really had obviously seen that before. Our head athletic trainer, I remember she would pop into my vestibular therapy sessions and just kind of watch, people would ask me questions and different things, and it's easier to talk about now, but like then I was just like a little embarrassed. Like I always did my PT early in the morning or late at night, not when people were coming in and out of the training room. So it was a process for everyone, but what I had said earlier, I would say my head coach did well of just like she kind of stepped back. She was just like, you do what your doctor says, and whenever he thinks you're ready, like I will listen to that, but like whenever you're ready, like I'm not gonna tell my forwards to go easy on you. Like I want to make sure you're back and ready to play when you are ready, so you can like be, full force and everything. And which honestly, that's the once I got to a point in my physical therapy, soon soccer became part of my like rehab
Yep.
routine.
Yep.
And so once I was at that point, was I great? No, I was still like progressing in different things, but now that soccer was in that like rehab part, and having like my teammates not hold back on me was the best physical therapy for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but to answer your question, yes and no. People were kind of scared, but once I was like confident a little bit in myself, like put me out there. If I get hit in the face, it happens. It's not gonna kill me, you know?
Yeah, and again, it sounds like you had like the perfect trajectory of going through, right? And especially with you, I mean, yes, if somebody comes to me and they're 60 years old and they have vestibular neuritis, right? I'm not getting them back to soccer, right? But for you specifically, like that had to be part of your rehab plan because that's what you're getting back to. So at that point, which is phenomenal, right? You don't actually even realize you're doing vestibular therapy, right? You're like,
Literally.
hey, I'm playing soccer again. So,
Yeah.
at that point, I'm sure is when you're like, okay, like this is back to I'm getting back to somewhat of what I'm used to. I never asked you, did you have any setbacks at all? Or were you pretty linear, straightforward?
Not say it was linear. Um,
it's not
Well,
common that people are like straight linear, so
yeah. I would say physically, I was somewhat linear. Like I like to say, I've said this before, I digressed really, like I got worse really fast. Like I said, like within a week and a half or so. In that month of December, I was not doing that great. And then all of a sudden, January started, and I was like slowly being able to stand up a little bit easier and like slowly being able to do basic movements a little bit easier. And that was at the point I mentioned earlier where I was like, I don't know what my future holds. I don't know if I will be normal again. That was a really hard time for me. And then I really turned like a corner probably towards February pretty fast
yeah.
and was soon making visible process like progress day by day. And so once I turned that corner, I was like, that was like the non-linear part, which is great. Once I turned that corner, I was making progress pretty fast. Things were looking just so much better. Mentally, I would say it's been a roller coaster. Um, but it's was never gonna like I knew it wasn't gonna be easy. So it's just a part of it, I would say.
Yeah. I'm going to touch on that for a minute because I know you've said something to me before about um, even to this day, sometimes you still are like, hey, is something off or am I fully myself? Um, so let's talk a little bit about like how are you handling that today?
It's it's tough. It's a battle for sure. Um, I wish I could say it was like I finished my physical therapy and I got on the field and it was like sunshine and rainbows and it was just perfect and it was so amazing. But it wasn't like that, and that's okay. But I would say even to this day, I don't need to whatsoever. Like I am haven't had a symptom in a long time, which has been so amazing. But I would say I still think like can I like am I like okay? Like I did I just feel dizzy or was am I just tired? Like I don't I it's a constant battle in my mind. Not even just like am I having symptoms right now? Like am I okay right now? But also like the confidence in myself. Like can I actually do this? Did this take away any of my reaction times, any of my goalkeeping skills? Like is it's I know it's all in my head because I've proven time and time again, like over this past year and a half that like I'm still playing and I'm still where I am today for a reason. But it is tough.
Yeah, I mean, and again, if you got on this call and were like, I'm fine and I never thought about it again, I'd be like, are you sure?
Yeah.
That's a lot to go through in life. Again, at such, I think, an impactful age, right? Like, hey, you are supposed to be a student athlete and enjoy your college career and not have this event that, again, a lot of times doesn't make a lot of sense to outsiders looking in. I think if it was something orthopedic or a broken bone, like you said, yeah, maybe it'd make a little bit more sense. But I'm here to tell you, you probably would still there's still that mental battle. Um,
Hmm.
and it's, hey, am I okay? And can I put myself in this situation? But I think, like you said, the best way is, hey, I've proven to myself that I'm okay and I am a phenomenal goalie, right? And I'm sure, time and time again, go out and prove it to yourself. But,
Thank you.
I think that's no, everybody can tell you till you're blue in the face, but you just have to go out and show yourself, you know?
Hmm. For sure.
Um, is there any advice that you would give anybody that may be listening, that has dizziness or balance or, maybe facing similar issues that you kind of went through?
Oh yeah, I could talk about this. I could talk, obviously, clearly, I could
What
talk about this
time
for.
should we have started that one?
Yeah. Um, I mean, just to put it simply, and maybe this is advice that I need to hear, or maybe like if you're stubborn like me or something, the best advice I would give myself a year and a half ago is ask for help. Like, it's not embarrassing. it is real. The power of people is so important, not even just like your physical therapist, but like the people who you're surrounded with. I thankfully was surrounded and still am surrounded by such a great support system who like was there with me and for me whenever I needed it, physically and emotionally and all the things. But just lean into your people too, like not just your doctor, but like if you need to talk about something, therapy is great. Journal, I mean, all of the things. Um, yeah, that's power of people, I would say. And another thing too, I'm gonna go and talk about this a little bit, but like for me, my faith is very important, and to be able to believe and trust in something bigger than myself and bigger than what was the circumstances in front of me absolutely saved me and kept me sane. And so I would say those three things probably like power of people, power of prayer, and just it's okay if it doesn't happen on the first try too. Like be patient.
Yeah. I think, again, I think those three things, very beautifully said.
Thank you.
I think anything, it takes a village, right? It takes the village.
Yes.
And again, not just medical professionals, right? But you need your people, because that was not and still probably isn't an easy journey. And you need support. I think everybody does. I love the power of prayer. I have turned in my darkest of days back to prayer. And I do think, again, like you said, something bigger than yourself
Yes.
is very important. Um, and I love the, hey, it's okay to ask for help. Um,
Mhm.
I wish I could tell my college self that too, you know. um,
I still tell myself that.
listen, it's a journey. Growth is a
It,
journey.
it is.
um, but no, I think that was very beautifully said. All right, one last question, and then we'll kind of wrap it up on this note because I want to, unless first, let's go. Do you have anything else that you would like to get out there for anybody first?
Um, I think that last little snippet was probably my last thing I had to say was for sure. Um, just it's okay to ask for help and you know, trust that things are working out the way they're supposed to, and there's a reason, there's a purpose for pain. I always tell myself too.
It's a good one.
And it you might not know it now, but you'll find out later.
Also amazing. Like I think we go through the things we're meant to. That doesn't mean that they're easy.
Oh,
Um,
no,
but
absolutely.
I do think they put us on the road we're supposed to be on. And again, like you say, I don't think we know now. We might not know 2 years down the road, but I always think there is a reason for sure.
Absolutely.
So I want to end on this note with you and we'll kind of wrap it up. So you are near and dear to my heart being an athlete. And like, I, again, cannot thank you enough for giving me your time. Um, but I love a comeback story. Like, you are the comeback kid.
Thank
So
you.
I want to end on this high note because um, I think everybody would love to hear it. Can you please explain that feeling when you step back out on that soccer field for your first game back?
Oh my gosh, I might cry thinking about it.
Cry, cry,
It
make it
was
real.
it was just such a good feeling because it was also my senior year. It was this past fall because I transferred that semester, but it was this past fall and I remember being so nervous, but also like so ready. And it was, oh my gosh, I haven't thought about this game in a while, but
Don't worry, I will bring it out.
it was really good. And it just felt really good. Like it was we didn't win the game. We tied 1-1, but it was against a tough team. They're towards the top of our conference, and so I would take that any day for my
Right?
first game back. But
You didn't
I
lose.
for yeah, we didn't lose. It just felt so rewarding, and like that was there's been many moments where I realized like this was the purpose for different pains, and that was one moment I think that really was a re like all everything that happened led up to that moment, and yeah, it just felt really good. My team, I do OSCP is near and dear to my heart, and so my team at the time was just very excited for me, and
Yeah.
it was such a good feeling. One of our girls, her name was Sophie, if she ever watches this, she gave me a little shout out at the end of the game, and that just meant the world to me,
Absolutely.
and everyone was just very nice.
Good.
So,
Good. Yeah, I just
mhm.
wanted again, I think that game will probably stick with you for the rest of your life, but I just wanted to hear your feelings on it because I just think yeah, I think again, your story is incredible. Again, not that I'd want someone and wish it on somebody to go through. But I think your ability to be resilient and come back probably stronger than ever. And again, you may not realize it right now, but again, I think it's one of those things that down the road you will you will see why.
Thank you.
So, anything else?
I think that's covered pretty
Okay.
much everything.
Okay.
Yeah,
So, Katie, I cannot thank you enough for sharing your story with the Balance Blueprint. Um,
absolutely.
and the Balance Blueprint community. I know that we connected again, I also believe for a reason. So I can't thank you enough for giving me your time. And, I hope the message kind of gets out to people about, hey, vestibular neuritis is a thing. It's a big thing. And then again, finding your people that you need to get to where you need to go.
Hmm.
So thank you, thank you, thank you. And we are always here for you.
Thank you.
And I'm sure we'll have you back at some point.
Yes, thank you guys so much for having me and letting me share my story and everything. It's definitely healing for me a little bit too.
And you had said that, and I can't thank you enough again for again putting yourself out there because this is not easy by any stretch of the imagination. So thank you. And if you need anything from us, you let us know.
I will.
All right. Go have a great finals week. You and I talked about it a little bit before. And we will talk soon.
Awesome. Thank you
Awesome.
so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Katie. Bye.